Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. The choir is here with us today, and they're going to stand and lead us in song.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville. My name is Benjamin. Y'all can call me Ben. I've been a member of this fellowship for about a year, and I'm on the Welcoming Congregation Committee. I'm part of the finance team. I'm on the Social Justice Committee, the Web of Life, and the choir. I also volunteer for coffee hour whenever it's possible. Unitarian Universalism is a religious tradition that values freedom and religious thought and journey. We uphold the unity of our interconnections, connections to each other, to all of life, and to the precious universe of which we are a part. We affirm the universality of love and hope as we journey together in community, and we welcome whoever you are in this moment and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. There's another welcome up here. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. If you are young or old, you are welcome. If you have brown skin, black skin, white skin, any color of skin, you're welcome. If you are married or single, you are welcome. If you are gay or straight, you are welcome. If you are transgender, you are welcome. If you are a man or a woman, you are welcome. If you cannot see or hear, you are welcome. If you are happy or sad, you are welcome. You are rich or poor, powerful or weak, you are welcome. If you believe in God sometime or none of the other time, you are all welcome. Come with your gifts, your pain, your hope, your fears. Come with the traditions that you have helped you or hurt you. Am I reading somebody else's lines here? Oh, okay. Okay. Do we have a visitor information card up here? Yes, we do. Okay. For those of you visiting for the first time, you'll find a visitor information card in the seat back in front of you. We'd love for you to fill this out, and we can get you on our email list to help keep you informed of our events. Later in our service, we will have a time where you are invited to come forward and drop a stone symbolizing the joy or concern into our bowl of water. If you have a joy or concern you'd like to share, we invite you to fill out one of our yellow cards you will find in the seat back in front of you. They look kind of like this. There's a place on there to indicate whether you want your joy or concern shared aloud, or if you want it to be confidential and shared only with the leadership. If you fill out a yellow card, you can bring that forward at that time. If you are online, you may write your joys and concerns in the comments there at that time. Please note these comments will be public. If you need hearing assistance, our AV Tech David in the back there can help you with that. Children are always welcome in our service. but there is a staff nursery available downstairs if you prefer. Please remember to silence your cell phones as we enter into our service. Yeah. Know that you're welcome here.
Let's do the child sliding. Love is the spirit of unity, and prayer is the prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together.
Good morning. My name is Oliver. My pronouns are he, him. I'm going to read this poem, Being Trans is Beautiful, by Keith Silva. Being trans is beautiful. We walk between the worlds. We see from all sides. We have faced oppression and found freedom or death. We break barriers. We build bridges. We open the possibility of authenticity for everyone.
Dear ones, good morning. I'm so happy to be with you today. Thank you, Oliver, for that poem. Thank you for everyone in service to the fellowship today. And I would also like to welcome any visitors or newcomers. You're very important to us. On Friday, I moved. I went from over 3,000 square feet to less than 700 square feet. Pray for me. I went through and let go of a lifetime's worth of things. A few of my most beloveds helped me in this process, or it would not have happened. I haven't lived in an apartment since my early 30s. I haven't lived in a place this small ever. And I've never lived alone. I mean, I have Rainbow, my dog, which is good. The work has been difficult and all-encompassing. I've cried a lot. Letting go of an old way, one that is very familiar, even if it isn't healthy or happy-making, is hard. And it's full of grief. It's a transformation. And transformation is so important. About 6 months ago, the UUA and all of its delegates voted to accept a new Article 2. And what Article 2 gives us is a set of UU core values for all of us to follow. These are spiritual principles. And when our lives are lived by spiritual principles, we simply do better. One of these core values is transformation. Transformation is so crucial in our lives that it has become a spiritual principle, a value that our entire denomination thinks is one of the most important. Of all the spiritual principles, the ones laid out for us in Article 2, our leadership, our global leadership thinks it makes us a better human being. Transformation is one of those. Our Unitarian Universalist bylaws defines transformation as this. Transformation. We adapt to a changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages. Never complete and never perfect. Let me say that one more time. We covenant, we all agree, to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. And get this part. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages. Never complete and never perfect. Isn't that great? That's in our bylaws. That's who we are. Transformation is linked directly to growth in this statement. Now, maybe this is kind of harsh, but for my whole adult life, I have been making a comparison of humans to plants. Plants do one of two things. They grow or they die. I also feel this way about humans. Either we grow or we die. And this sounds very dramatic, but of course, what I really mean is also can be a figurative death. All of us are perfect, and none of us are complete. And if we stop growing and we stop transforming, it isn't pretty. We all know people that are stuck in their old ways and unwilling to grow and change. And if I'm being generous, I will say that's because of fear. And all of us have been afraid of change, all of us. I just bawled my head off for several days in a row because I was afraid of a move. When I could have been thinking, lucky me, I have a roof over my head. But now I'm starting to kind of get used to this apartment, and I like it. Yes, all of us are afraid of change sometimes, but we do it anyway because we know we have to grow. What change in your life are you afraid of? If you had to make a really, really, really big change in your life, what would happen? Would it scare you? Would you be afraid? Would you do it anyway? If you knew that you had to make this change in order to be fully you, would you do it anyway? Beloveds, there are people in our lives, beautiful people in our own congregation and community that live as shining examples of our core transformation or core value of transformation. Since the Stonewall riots and even before that, transgendered people have been showing up, fighting for justice, fighting for the right to be themselves, and exemplifying transformation as a core value. And it's not easy. In fact, I have heard from my dear ones that it is so hard to come out as trans. It's so hard that some people never do. But for the ones that do, it's incredibly challenging. And it's just incredibly necessary. Incredibly necessary. You know why? Because we want to be ourselves. We want to be accepted as our authentic selves. That's what trans folks are trying to do. They're just trying to be themselves, to live their most authentic life. And you know what? It is brave. Especially in our society today. It is brave. No one truly comes out and lives their lives as trans or non-binary for fun. Not just for kicks. I think today I'll be trans. It doesn't work that way. It's because of a deep, deep need for growth and transformation within themselves. And as we know, as I just said, there are people that fear growth and change so much that they will fight it when they see it. They will make really bad decisions and even commit crimes because of their fear of change. In most cases, these people that are so afraid of change, that are so afraid of people who exemplify change in their lives, most of the time they just talk smack to other fearful people. Sometimes out loud, sometimes behind their hands in hushed tones. That's most cases. However, sometimes the fear of change turns into something really sick. And people die because of someone else's fear of change. People die because of being different. There have been so many trans folks murdered throughout the years. So many people killed for trying to be their authentic selves. And this isn't getting any easier with our political climate today. Okay. November 20th is Transgender Day of Remembrance. And I hate that we have to have this day. But if we have to, by God, our congregation is going to talk about it. And we will lift up and celebrate the people who transform their lives and exemplify this beautiful core value. Why don't we sing about it?
Just like the plants. The song is, I know this rose will open. And when a rose grows, it opens and shows its true beauty. Please rise, and if you are able and willing, and sing along with the Gray Hymnal, number 396. It will be a round, and Carol is over here to help this side. We're going to sing it once in unison, 3 times as a round, and then end together with the last line as a prayer, as a hope, and with compassion.
I know
As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that it is very important that we take care of each other. Our connections to each other become stronger when we care for each other. The interconnectedness of us all is a part of who we are as Unitarian Universalists. Sharing joys and concerns helps us to be a more caring people. And being a caring people is one of the ways that we're UUs every day. Why do we share joys and concerns with each other? So that we can comfort and help each other? So that we can celebrate good times together? So that we can keep each other informed of important events in our lives? So that we can feel closer to each other? We might be able to help someone if we've gone through a difficult event like the one that they are experiencing. And, for my money, this is the most important one. Some people may not have family or close friends with whom they share their feelings. And this is where they get to do it. This is an important part of our worship service almost every Sunday. And dear ones, if you have filled out a yellow joys or concerns card, you may bring it up and give it to me and drop a stone in the bowl of water by Ben. Now, if you don't want to turn in a card, you don't have to. You can just drop a stone in the water so that the ripples from our stones are interconnected with each other's and with other Unitarian Universalists across the globe this morning doing the same thing. You may come forward. Brenda, will you offer us some music? Thank you, Brenda. That was beautiful. I love that ritual. Dear ones, it's a lot. Let's take a breath. And again. David, are there any joys and concerns on Facebook? Not today. Hey, Ben, let's drop some stones for the joys and concerns that are just too much to share right now, that we're holding in our hearts. Yeah, go ahead and drop in a whole handful. Yep. And let's drop a few more for the concerns that we might, the joys and concerns that we might encounter before we are together again. And let's also drop another handful of stones for our trans and non-binary siblings whose lives were ended for being their authentic selves. Now, friends, let's have a moment of silence. We're going to take 60 whole seconds as we hold this ritual in our hearts. You may keep the silence or you may pray in your own way.
Because we know there's much darkness, and it's our thirst for life, our thirst for being our authentic selves that keep us going forward. The choir is going to sing in Spanish this song to help us feel that compassion. Please rise.
La
So, what is Transgender Day of Remembrance? It's abbreviated TDOR, and it was started in 1999 by transgender advocate Gwendolyn Ann Smith as a vigil to honor the memory of Rita Hester, a transgender woman who was killed in '98. The vigil commemorated all the trans folks lost to violence since Rita Hester's death and began a very important tradition that has become our annual Transgender Day of Remembrance. Here's a quote from founder Gwendolyn Ann Smith. Transgender Day of Remembrance seeks to highlight the losses we face due to anti-transgender bigotry and violence. I am no stranger to the need to fight for our rights, and the right to simply exist is first and foremost. With so many seeking to erase transgender people, sometimes in the most brutal ways, it is vitally important that those we lose are remembered and that we continue to fight for justice. When Ben and I were working on this service together and talking about how we could best honor these folks, how we could best honor these people whose rights to exist, let that sink in. Their right to exist was taken from them. We decided that saying their names aloud would be the best way that we could honor them best in our time together here. So, Ben and I will take turns. We will say their name, you will repeat it, and then we will share a sentence or two about them. All right. We remember the names of the transgender people whose lives have been lost to anti-transgender violence over the years, and continue to demand increased and accurate media coverage of transgender people in their lives and in their deaths. These are the names of transgender people we know of, whose lives have been, and you know there's more that we don't know of. These folks whose lives have been taken due to anti-transgender violence in the past years. These weren't just murders because of domestic violence or because someone hated them. This is because they were transgender. These deaths often go misreported or underreported or are not reported at all. So we are certain that this is an incomplete list. But here we go. Son Coleman. A black trans person who was killed in Atlanta, Georgia on October 19th, 2024. She was 48 years old.
Honey Daniels.
Honey Daniels.
A black trans woman who was killed in Rochester, New York on October 3rd, 2024. She was 37 years old.
Kasim Omar. A Somali trans woman killed in Columbus, Ohio on September 6, 2024. She was 29 years old.
Red, or also Barbie.
Red.
A black trans woman who was killed in Chicago, Illinois on September 8th, 2024. She was 25 years old.
Ty Latham. A black trans woman who was killed in Baltimore, Maryland on August 4th, 2024. She was 24 years old.
Vanity Chanel Williams.
Vanity Chanel Williams.
A black trans woman who was killed in Houston, Texas on August 3rd, 2024. She was 34 years old.
Dylan Gurley. A trans woman who was killed in Denton, Texas on July 24th, 2024. She was 20 years old.
Monique Brooks.
Monique Brooks.
A black trans woman was killed in Orlando, Florida on July 19th, 2024. She was 49 years old.
Shannon Boswell.
Shannon Boswell.
A black trans woman who was killed in Atlanta, Georgia on July 5th, 2024. She was 30 years old.
Kenji Spurgeon.
Kenji Spurgeon.
A black trans person was killed in Seattle, Washington on July 1st, 2024. They were 23 years old.
Polly Likens. A trans girl was killed in Sharon, Pennsylvania on June 23rd, 2024. She was 14 years old.
Liara Kaylee Tsai.
Liara Kaylee Tsai.
A trans woman who was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota on June 22nd. She was 35 years old.
Tay Dior Thomas. A black trans girl was killed in Mobile, Alabama on May 7th, 2024. She was 17 years old.
Jaslyn Johnson.
Jaslyn Johnson.
A trans girl who was killed in Carson City, Nevada on May 6th. She was 18 years old.
Keita B. A black trans woman who was killed in Kansas City, Missouri on May 3rd, 2024. She was 46 years old.
Andrea Doria de dos Passos. Andrea Doria dos Passos.
Andrea Doria dos Passos.
A Latina trans woman was killed in Miami Beach, Florida on April 22nd. She was 37.
Star Brown.
Star.
A black trans woman was killed in Raleigh, Tennessee on April 19th, 2024. She was 28 years old.
Nevaeh River Goddard.
Nevaeh River Goddard.
A non-binary teenager was killed in Stowe, Massachusetts on April 10th. They were 17.
Beloveds, let's take a breath. T. Arnold. A black trans man was killed in Hollandale Beach, Florida on April 7th, 2024. He was 36 years old.
Maraxis Medina.
Maraxis Medina.
A Latina trans woman was killed in Los Angeles, California on March 20th, 2024. She was 24 years old.
Alex Franco. A trans man was killed in Salt Lake City, Utah around March 18th, 2024. He was 21 years old.
Diamond Cherish Brigman.
Diamond Cherish Brigman.
A black trans woman was killed in Houston, Texas on March 16th. She was 26.
Reina Hernandez. A Latina trans woman was killed in Renton, Washington around March 8th, 2024. She was 54 years old.
Next Benedict.
Benedict.
A non-binary teenager was killed in Owasso, Oklahoma on February 8th, 2024. They were 16 years old.
Africa Parilla Garcia. A Latina trans woman was killed in San Juan, Puerto Rico on February 2nd, 2024. She was 25 years old.
Sasha Williams.
Sasha Williams.
A black trans woman was killed in Las Vegas, Nevada on January 26th, 2024. She was 36 years old.
Kitty Monroe. A Latina trans woman was killed in Phoenix, Arizona on January 1st, 2024. She was 43 years old.
Lexis Walker.
Lexis Walker.
A black trans woman was killed on Hampton Roads, Virginia on December 30th. She was 43 years old.
Megan Riley Lewis. A white trans woman was killed in Bel Air, Maryland on December 27th, 2023. She was 53 years old.
Amber Minor.
Amber Minor.
A black trans woman was killed in Raytown, Missouri on December 24th, 2023. She was 40 years old.
And our last name, Savannah Williams. An indigenous Latina trans woman was killed in St. Paul, Minnesota on November 29th, 2023. She was 38 years old. Thank you, Ben. I know this was hard. I see it in your faces. glad it was hard. That shows me who you are. Okay. Jory, Brenda, let's have our last hymn.
That was just 1 year of people,
1 year.
1 year. I remember being at the first vigil at the university in 1999. We're going to sing from the Gray Hymnal, number 127. And I did change the binary language. Instead of mother, we're going to say family. And instead of father, we're going to say parent. And please rise if you're able and willing, and the choir will lead us. And please sing along, and you can follow the words for the hymnal.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today, the prompt for the gratitude moment is how did you get here, how you've been transformed by the church, and why you enjoy going to the UUFF. It starts with American society's normalization of Christianity, but the thing is, Christianity's broken off into so many different sects and who argue about whether their God is the right one, or their God is the only one, or their God is actually three separate gods, but not really. And many of them feel like completely different religions. My parents tried to raise me as like a non-denominational Christian, I guess. I was given children's Bibles and told God loves me and told Jesus loves me and that the rest is largely up to interpretation, which is what I hear within these walls mostly. The free and responsible search for truth and meaning, that's a part of UU that I really jive with. It turns out that that's not what all Christians believe, like, at all. My mom took me to a Methodist church with a female pastor who was really patient with my existential questions when I was 4 or 5 years old. But that church grew more conservative over the years, and we lost that pastor, and my mom started taking me to a much larger and less personal church. I don't think I ever spoke to any of the clergy there. And then there were the times that I visited my grandma's church. When I got too big for Sunday school and I went to the Sunday service instead, that pastor described in gruesome detail to everyone in the congregation what his God truly thought of me. This is an unfortunate narrative I've seen time and time again. The church gets comfortable with seeing the same people day in and day out, week after week, and the leadership and the members of the congregation turn into a sort of echo chamber focused on ostracizing everyone outside of the walls. If you knew that you identified with a group they were talking with, that was a sin and you needed to repent. It doesn't make sense to me. I was lucky in that I knew that I didn't have to go back that next week. Like, it was just an occasional thing I had to deal with. And I could keep one foot inside of the closet and not worry about getting kicked out of my home. I mean, I've witnessed some people go into the closet and not come out. This experience changed my perspective a bit, and I started seeing religion as not an organized way for humans to remind each other to support one another, but instead as a means of control. I stopped praying. I couldn't believe God would allow people to speak on her behalf with such hate. I didn't go to church again until I was in college, and on this day, exactly 10 years ago, I befriended a person who was willing and eager to discuss the philosophy behind the questions we both had regarding spirituality and religion. And I remember this day because it was Burton's 19th birthday. They introduced the concept of practicing paganism with me. They were so unapologetically themselves and committed to activism that it lit a fire underneath me. We joined 2 LGBTQIA student organizations and started working to make our campus a more accepting and inclusive place. We had the discrimination clause changed to include protections for gay and trans students, faculty, and staff. We had some of family restrooms converted into gender-neutral bathrooms. It was just a sign, but it was a big step for us. And we ended up transforming our little tiny organization from a 4-person ice cream social. Each attendee was a member of the board after that meeting. And we ended up with a regular 15 to 20 person meetup to catch up with others and make sure that our community's voices were being heard. I discovered the link between activism and spirituality, especially here in the southern United States. One thing I've noticed is that the candle lighting is a prevalent thing among many different spiritualities. When you light a candle, you're setting off a chemical reaction that uses the energy stored in the candle wick, and it converts it into light and heat. And when you light a candle with the intent to search for truth and meaning and belonging and love, the energy of the little flame is transformed by that. And personally, I believe that spirits are attracted to this energy as well and will hang out if the vibes are right. After Burton passed, I remember the Episcopalians and the Wiccans specifically reaching out to our student organization. They held a candlelight vigil in Burton's memory and the memory of others that were lost to anti-queer violence. It's an unfortunate fact of life that everyone has people who were near and dear to them that they've lost. But as a queer identifying person, I feel the weight of the lives lost due specifically to the violence that many of us have seen from specifically unwelcoming congregations. If more churches work to undo the religious trauma that we've had inflicted upon us rather than perpetuate for our own gain, this world would be a better place. That's one of the things I love about UU. I moved to Fayetteville with my partners over 2 years ago, 3-ish now. We attended the Pride Festival and knew that this town was where we belonged. E was a bit more into the idea of joining a religious community than I was, so I really enjoy it to them for doing the initial research. They noticed that the UUFF marches in the Pride Parade, and they also found out that the Web of Life runs some special services celebrating the specific holidays that we celebrated privately throughout the year. Our first service was in the summer. I sat around there somewhere. The air was a little bit too cold for me at the time. And right as the chalice was lit, the sun just shone in through that window there. The architecture of this building is just beautiful, y'all. I was really happy and relieved to see the chalice lighting ritual, and then the stone dropping, and the joys and concerns, and then the story for all ages. I regret that we don't have one today. I remember filling out the little white card in the back of the seat pocket because I knew I'd want that weekly newsletter. I want to know what we're doing every week. I want to be involved in this community. Y'all are my people. I love that we have the space in the foyer for stepping out when the service gets too intense, and the Zen garden and the memorial garden when the foyer gets too intense. I also love coffee hour and all the information in our downstairs library. It's wonderfully organized now. I also love that we have the staff nursery and the children's religious exploration and also the adult religious exploration, which I attend when I can. I love that we have grounds work weekly on Thursdays. I can't find the time to attend, but it's lovely out there. I really appreciate your work. And I just love being a part of an action-oriented congregation and a democratic oriented congregation at that, and getting to speak to everyone from up here. I feel like I've regained my understanding of the purpose of church, like a congregation and a fellowship. This is all possible because we dwell together under this physical and virtual roof and contribute whatever we can, financial or otherwise, to each other, and we give whatever excess we have to those in need. That brings me to the end of my gratitude moment and to our morning offering. I hope I was able to articulate the full extent of how thankful I am to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville and everyone in the congregation. This fellowship exists because of personal contributions from folks like you and me. Every contribution of every size is helpful and appreciated. As we pass the offering baskets, we invite you to share financially. You can also go online to uufayetteville.org. We will now pass around the baskets. If you prefer, you may give, or by mailing checks to our office. We also take it that way. We look forward to receiving your membership packet, which is due today. Will the ushers please come forward? And Brenda, will you offer us some music? I love y'all.
Let's extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not by light or truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
All right, so announcements are on the screen. I've got a few important ones. I've already announced the membership packets are due today. Please turn those in. That'll give us the time to do our due diligence for the upcoming congregational meeting on December 15th. I'd also like to mention that since Transgender Day of Remembrance is actually on November 20th, there's there's a vigil and what else? A panel presented by NWA Equality's Transgender Advisory Group at St. Paul's in the Sanctuary and Guildhall. That'll be 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. if you want to attend. I'll see you there if you are.
Please mention Thanksgiving sign-up is online.
Okay. The UUFF's annual Thanksgiving feast is happening this year. All are invited to a Thanksgiving potluck at UUFF on Thursday, November 28th. We'll eat at 1 p.m. and enjoy games afterwards. Sign up using the link on the e-news. And yeah, bring a dish and bring a favorite game if you wish. We've also got the 25th annual bread service is the 1st of December, and we need you. Do you like making bread? Homemade bread is very special. Do you like buying bread? That's okay too. Please bring breads to the December 1st service. Also, Reverend Clint Schneckloth. Reverend Clint Schneckloth needs us to participate in Canopy. This organization helps refugees. Last week, some of you told Reverend Renee after service that you were interested. UUFF is going to partner with Good Shepherd on this project, so if you're interested in joining a circle to support Canopy and immigrant families, please actually give your name to Gene Van Zandt over there. He's putting that together for us. I think that's all. That's all. Thank you for coming, and Ollie's left.
This poem is titled Thank You, My Allies by Keith Silva. When you call me by the name and pronouns I adore, you give me a gentle, warm hug, a hand up, a healing balm, a bright smile in the dark, a heart-opening wink, a bouquet of sunflowers, a yarrow blossom circle of protection, a tender rose of sweetness, years on my life, a burst of energy, the ability to focus, a nourishing sense of safety and belonging, a happy memory, a warm cup of lemon balm love. When you call me by the name and pronouns I adore, you give me wellness, welcome, and home. Thank you.
I have no closing words. This service was horrible and wonderful. Please remember a couple of those names that we said. I wish we could all remember all of the names. But on November 20th, look back and know what we're fighting for. Go in peace.